All right, so this one is going to be a little different than this guy over here. This squiggly piece here is a little bit more organic, so it might not come out quite as geometric and wonderfully perfect as that first one. But the process is pretty much the same. It might take a little bit more time to do it, but the goal of these videos is to make it so that you can look at anything and know that you can texture map it somehow, even though it might take a little bit more time. And like Einstein said, it's not that he was more intelligent than others. It was that he stuck with the problem longer. So you can still do it. You just have to stick with the problem a little bit longer. So what we do is we're going to start out with the same basic things. We're going to take every single face that's in there, and let's also make this a little easier on ourselves and detach it from the rest of the object. Then you can combine it later. So we go over here, we extract it. Our object is separate. We're going to hide this. Go in here. Okay. So now, with all of those selected, what we're going to do is we're going to unitize every poly like we did before. So now we just have to go through and find the loop going along the edge. Now, since there's a little bit of some wackiness going on here, some of these tries over here, things are going to look a little strange. You're probably going to have to just move some stuff around in the at the end. Well, you won't, but I will. Maybe you will if you follow the video. All right. All right, we're going to also do this little bulbous thing here at the end. Okay, so now we should have the whole length of the object. Just look here. I think in woodworking it's called, what is it, measure twice and cut once. So that way you don't have to go back and redo it. All right, so that looks good. Now we're going to select the end cap and beginning. Okay, so we have that. Now let's double check, triple check, quadruple check, quintuple check, sextuple check. I don't know what comes after that. Okay, so now we have that. What we did before was not that. It was Control and right mouse button, and we go to two UVs, and there we go. We have that. All those that we had selected. Now we're going to invert all of those by holding down Shift and selecting all of it, and we've inverted it. Now that we have that, we're going to go over here into our UV editor, and we're going to go to, nope, we're not going to go to that side. We're going to go right click here and move in so. It does look like we do have a couple little mistakes in there somewhere, but it's pretty close. So now what we can do is we can unfold, select the shell, unfold, and that is our basic object. I'd like to know what that is. Oh, it's the cap. That's what. So that's no biggie. There you are. That's now that's pretty good in terms of making an organic shape look pretty straight. There's a couple things that we could do to fix it up a little bit. We can go in here, select these UVs. You could probably do this with a little bit of the soft selection. And yeah, so just massaging some of this stuff a little. Turn around a little. There. Yeah, that's a little better. Okay, so that is our tube. Now we have this little guy here at the end. Um, we can fix that cap if we just do, let's just do normal based. There we go. There's our cap. And if we go into the texture, we can see now, and gotta fix this so that it's smaller. And that was F I just pressed there. Now, if you look at the object, oh, I forget when you go out of there, um, the things go away. All right, so now we look at it and everything is looking like it's just kind of progressing along the whole shape. So where once it was totally, completely incomprehensible, it now makes a lot more sense and it is a whole lot easier to texture map. So with that done, let's bring the rest of it back. Display, show, show all. All right, and get out of object mode. Didn't have that selected before. And let's combine them together. That's good. Delete our history, go back to one object. And so now, what we have so far is all of these shells are texture mapped. But we do have a few others that are not. Let's find out which ones those are. That one is underneath the object, and that is super simple. We could do normal based, we could do planar based, we could do whatever. So that's good. We have this one that's underneath our other one. We can do normal based with that as well. Make that smaller. And then the last thing that we have is this guy. Now this is an interesting one. It's off of the flamethrower. The way to do this one is, let's see, one sec. Okay, so the way to do this one is interesting. It's going to be a little bit like how one might texture a character, which is something that I want to show people how to do eventually. It's actually just, when you know all of these things, it's just super, super simple. So we could separate it from the whole body, but we don't really need to do that. We're just going to select half of it. So let's just select half of this guy. Okay. Let's make sure that we have half it selected. Just deselecting all of the extraneous parts. Okay. Everything selected. Yeah. Okay, so half of that is selected. What we'll do is we'll go in here and we're going to select, we could do normal based again, which could work out, maybe, maybe not. We could even do planar or best plane. I don't do that. Okay, so let's say we're going to do planar. We have to project it along z-axis. Right, so let's try this one. Project along z-axis, project. Okay, so we have that. Okay, now let's do the other side. Right. Let's deselect all the other ones that are not necessary. All the other faces. Good. Everything selected. All right. So again, We're going to choose. Okay, now this is interesting. Notice like when you hover over it, it says Shift left mouse button object. So project using y-axis, right mouse button, project using z-axis. So let's try the right mouse button, and there we go. Cool, that was easier than I thought it would be. Okay, so we have these two guys, these two sides. They're not exactly the same, but what we're going to want to do is we're going to actually want to um, have it like that. And basically, we're going to have it fold over the top of it. So what we want is we want these edges, these top edges, to be the thing that we are going to move and sew next to. Actually, before we do that, let's do this. Select those, and we're going to unfold. Now, unfolding it makes these things look a little bit like socks, but that's all right. Then what we'll do is now we're going to connect these two socks at the top. So select edge, we're going to do that edge, and then we're going to right click and select move and sew. And so now we have those connected. We have these guys that are over here. We want to move and sew those guys together. There we go. All right, so now we have the whole thing that essentially wraps right around the top of it. Let's unfold it again. All right, there we go. So here is our, there is that extra piece there. Now that's exactly what you would do if you were, say, texture mapping an arm or something like that. And when it comes to clothing, when you texture map, all you have to do is just look at your seams essentially, and you'll figure out how to figure out where all of the seams are. So these are all of our pieces. We're going to figure out now how to lay it out into our texture. So we want all these guys to go right into this little thing over here. And after that, we're going to do a simple texture just with dots, just to show what it looks like so that the dots are not twisted or distorted in any way. All right, so now we're going to lay these guys out so that we can do just a temporary texture. So the tools for this, there's a few ways of doing it. The most useful is just clicking layout. And what layout did right there is it took all of them, scaled them down, and put them into this one 0 through 1. I left this guy out because if I did that, they'd all be bunched up down there. But so these guys also were moved in, but I want to layer those on top of each other. So I look over there and I just select these guys, and then I select layout again. Okay, so let's now take these guys and put them on top of each other. That's good enough. All right, so there's our set there. Now some of these guys also might not be totally unfolded. Let's see. I don't want it to do that. We can click unfold to make sure that there's no warping or anything in them. And try that out. That should be all set. That's all set. Okay, and we don't want to do this one because we already modified that. So this one, okay. So now we have that. Let's look at the tessellation that we have going on here. Let's take this one, and we're going to put this, just lay that one out. right down there. And let's see that we have similar layout for these guys. That one's going to be a little smaller. Oh, no, not really that small. Oh yeah, we tried that. So what I'm doing here is making sure that there is kind of um, the same textile density or pixel density so that when it gets a texture, it won't look too terribly funky. You won't have one that's like really tiny pixels and then one that has really big pixels. You want everything to look pretty similar. These are not individual pixels, by the way. Okay, it looks pretty similar. That looks pretty good. These guys are probably, no, it's all right. Let's rotate those guys. Still have this. Okay. Let's put it back. All right, so that works out pretty well for us. This one is definitely different from the rest that we learned from the electric company, or is that Sesame Street? I don't know which. So there is our layout right there. Now that we have that, we're going to go to the next little part, and this involves taking a snapshot, bringing it into Photoshop, and we're just going to get some interesting stuff going on here. Oh, let's also do something about this little guy here. Let's add him together to the rest of them. Combine. Delete our history on that. Now we have that little texture over there. Bring it down. All right. Okay. Oh, let's also do something about this little guy here. Let's add him together to the rest of them. Combine. Delete our history on that. Now we have that little texture over there. Bring it down. All right. Okay. So now this part, what we're going to do is we're going to do a screenshot. And let's see where our screenshot is. I think this is it. All right, so that we got that. Now we're going to go into Photoshop. And we find our out UVs, we load it up, and this is what we have. So now this is our texture for the top. We have to remember what it was that we textured. We have an issue there. We have the bottom one with some dots, so that would have to be moved. And that's easy enough. You should have seen that. Let's move that over there. Let's do the whole darn thing again. And perhaps it will like it this time. It did. Huzzah! All right, so let's close that. And that's changed. So what we could do here is we're just going to do some very simple circles. And this is just going to show that things are not being twisted. So let's give some put some circles on things here like this. Oops, we want it to have hardness. Opacity set to 100, just like that. Now this was the leg, so we're just going to put dots on the various parts of the leg so that we can see that it's textured correctly. And on this long one, I'm just going to put some dots down the whole texture to show that it is in fact textured. And this one, okay, so here is just our little texture that is just to show that things are working. So I'll save that out. I can actually save that, and yeah, let's do that. So we'll save it as JPEG, out UVs, dots. We'll go back into Maya, and that texture there. We'll go into our hypershade. We'll create a new one. Lambert 3. I'm going to call this UV dots. And then we'll go into our color, select file as a node, and then we'll find the UV dots. Out UV dots open. All right, so there's that. Make sure this is on. Then we're going to go over here, out UVs, and apply it. So there we go. That's just showing that all of that stuff that we textured is now on our objects. So we have this one over here that we folded and we stitched together, this one cylindrical mapping, this one that lovely piping, this one was normal UVing, this one was cylindrical, and then this one right here is going all along the edge. Now the thing with this one, since it's so much longer, it actually might be better to do it in a different texture, or if you have in that texture down here, we might actually want to make this, like bring these guys up just a little bit and then make it so that this can tile. So if we tiled that along, then we could make it longer. Having something tiled gives you more pixel density, but you can't do that for everything. A lot of times people want to pack those textures into one thing. So there you are. Finally, our weird object is textured strangely. And you can see here that the UVs that we did with the UV snapshot are actually still the on the object. So we have like a texture of the wireframe on the object, which is so meta. Anyways, hope you enjoyed that. Hope you learned something from that, and on to more and interesting stuff advancing later.